Hi, welcome to Preps Plus Podcast, episode 11, brought to you by Sterling Auto Group. I'm Josh Hart, sports editor here at the Daily News. I'm here with Rainier senior and softball pitcher Haley Schimmel. She's fresh off of a state title, the Rainier's fourth in 5 years, her third in her career. I know I asked you this after the game, but what was it like to lift that trophy yet again?
It's amazing every time, and it's a different feeling every time, but it never gets old, and it's great to be able to do that with girls beside you who you've been working with for multiple years, and with a team that's been collectively working together for the same goal ever since the first day of the season.
You said it's a different feeling. What was the feeling this year with this group of players?
I think the feeling was something of having our hard work all pay off, and almost like treating it as a reward, which it is. So that kind of feeling.
Right. This was the first time you were in the circle when you finally got that final out last year. Sarah got to celebrate within the circle. Was that different feeling for you to be able to be the pitcher that got that final out?
I think both ways I was able to contribute to the game in the circle, but more so this year, obviously, because I pitched the whole game. But it was a great experience to be able to pitch the whole game and finish the game in the circle.
Last year, you were a bit of a surprise to be pitching in that state title game. I remember Jim telling me after you guys beat Sayo that he had a trick up his sleeve. And I was like, Jim, just off the record, I won't print it. Just tell me what it is. I just want to know. And he's like, you'll see. And he wouldn't tell me what it was. And then when you were pitching, I go, this is weird. Maybe they'll just throw you 3. And then when you went 4 and 5, I was like, well, this must be Jim's trick. Was it different knowing you were kind of going in as the starter this time versus finding out shortly before the game?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there are always rumors, but definitely. And last year, he called me the secret weapon. That was the catchphrase, so it was really fun to do that last year and then get to do it again this year.
How much did you learn from pitchers in previous years? Obviously, Rainier's had a huge line of successful pitchers. How much did you learn and take from them going into this season when you were kind of counted on for most of the innings, more so than in past years when there was a bigger split?
Each pitcher that's gone through the Rainier softball program is different, I think, and each pitcher has been able to bring something different to the program. So it's been cool to look up to older past pitchers and learn from them and kind of go through their roles as I have.
Well, you say each pitcher brings something different. What do you bring?
I think I bring more spin and speed and composure on the mound more so, but that's what I think. That's what I'm told.
Did you expect this season to have kind of the workload you did? I mean, it's been such a tradition that it's pretty much a 4-3 split or a 5-2 split for the past several years. Talia is obviously a talented pitcher as well, but did you expect to have the workload you did this year?
I kind of tried to expect it. I didn't want to be underprepared at all, so I tried to always be the most prepared that I could in every situation and be ready for whatever was going to happen.
I like to ask this question to people who have spent a lot of time. You obviously play summer ball, who have spent a lot of time in respective sports or fields. Why softball? What drives you to play softball?
Softball gives me a different feeling than any other sport I played. I played soccer when I was really little, volleyball, basketball, and I've enjoyed all the sports that I've been able to participate in, but softball has opened up multiple doors for me, and I've been able to play tournament ball through it and have that exposure to colleges and get a scholarship for it. So I think that's what motivates me the most.
How much different is high school ball versus tournament ball? What's the differences? And as far as exposure goes, are you getting more exposure from your summer ball team?
A lot more, I think. And you're able to travel across the country to play and go to these tournaments where there's thousands of college coaches watching you and taking notes on you and looking at you. So it's great to have that experience in your back pocket and then play high school at the same time, just be able to relax a little bit more.
Is that nerve-wracking when you have scouts watching you?
Yeah, I don't say get used to it, but you kind of do. But it's definitely, the first tournament is by far the worst.
Right.
It's crazy.
What's the feeling like? If you could put it into words, what's the feeling like when you're out there? I know you've told me you try to kind of put things off to the side and just kind of focus on your pitching, but what is the feeling like out there?
Well, you can like see college coaches sitting behind the backstop, and you're like facing it, so you're pitching to them. But you feel kind of overwhelmed, but at the same time, you have to stay focused. It's a little bit both.
Right. When did you start getting start hearing from Portland State University? What were they saying to you? What was that recruiting process like? Not a lot of kids, especially from the for Washington State, it's the 1A equivalent, but from Class 3A, you don't see a whole ton of kids go D1. So, what was that recruiting experience like for you?
It was really cool. I had been trying to contact them throughout my sophomore year, and I had no idea. I was talking to other colleges, of course, because I hadn't heard back from them or been able to get a hold of them. And the head coach at the time, Barb Sherwood, who is now not there anymore, it's Coach Meadow McWhorter, but she had been watching me the whole season. I had no idea. I had never seen her at any of our tournaments until nationals, and that was our last tournament of the year. Actually, no, this was sophomore year. Sorry. And so one of my coaches had her contact information card, and he gave it to me. He's like, "Hey, Coach Sherwood really wants to see you on campus next week. You think you can make that happen?" And I was like, "Coach Sherwood? Like what? The Coach Sherwood?" And then so I was able to get in contact with her really quick, and she was excited to meet me and see me on campus. So I got on campus pretty quick, and then she offered me, and I accepted. And it's been a while since then, but it was crazy because I had no idea that they were watching me, and they had been the whole season.
Right. Obviously, college commitments, aren't like complete until you officially sign. They went through the coaching change. Did that frighten you at all? Because like when a coaching change, your offer might not still be on the table. What was that like?
Yeah, they call it like a verbal commitment, so it's only held between like you and the coach. So there's no paperwork or anything to like sign you in. So you don't get that hard copy till you sign it. So it was definitely challenging, the whole process of it, and scary, for lack of better words, but it was worth it in the end because I was staying like faithful that would work out for me, and my experience with that was challenging, but it was rewarding overall.
Is it nice to be staying so close to home?
Yes, I didn't really want to go across the country in the first place, and to have Portland State in like our backyard almost is a great outlet and opportunity for me.
I asked you this beforehand, but why Portland State? What drew you specifically to them?
Through them, I'm able to pursue my dentistry drive. I want to become a dentist and study in health sciences and pre-dentistry, and play competitive Division I softball at the same time with a great program who offers a family-oriented program and atmosphere. So I'm really excited to be a part of all of that in one university.
Is it not, or I guess, what's the feeling like to have to be able to go to a college for playing a sport you love, but at the same time, getting a education at the same, from that, for most athletes, especially around this area, college is kind of the peak for them. That's going to be the peak of their careers. So what's it like to be able to kind of get to that peak, and yet, the reward of that is also, an education?
Yeah. I think that the thought of college is driving me, and I'm hoping that the peak is yet to come, but I'm always hoping for the best and everything that has to come so far.
Is it nervous right now? You got a couple months left till you go out, I imagine. Is it nerve-wracking? Is it I imagine probably your first time, away from home for an extended period. So what's the kind of the feeling like right now as a couple months away from your college?
I'm kind of nervous, but I'm excited at the same time, and I won't be too far away from home, so I'll be able to come home fairly occasionally. And I found my roommate. She's from Arizona, and I have some family down there too, so that's pretty cool, and that's a connection we have already. But I was able to meet her on our official visit in October last year, and she's super nice. And I think that having her as a teammate and a roommate is going to be able to make the transition of it all a lot smoother.
Do they try to room teammates together, or so you don't have to go through like the regular housing process?
Yeah, they do, and it's like almost like a shortcut to the housing process too for athletes. And there's like different floors, and athletes get a certain floor, and it's cool to be in that community.
Right. You're very lucky. The housing process is mess at college level.
Yeah.
So there was this thing I went to Western Washington, and you had like to have a brown paper ticket, and you had to be first, and it was a whole mess. And, so be very grateful you don't have to go through that. As far as Rainier softball goes, you guys have had such a winning tradition. You got to carry that on a little bit. I don't think many people understand what it takes to win, 4 titles in 5 years.
Yeah.
What are those practices like? What are those games like? How do you guys maintain that elite level? Like, you see some programs that can be good for 4 years or, 3 years when they have a good crop of athletes come through. You guys kind of been able to run that success even a little bit longer.
Yeah.
So what makes Rainier softball so consistent year after year?
I think that a lot of it is through high school and practices and games and everything, and the coaching staff. But a lot of girls on our team also play tournament ball in the summer leagues and spring and fall all together, so they have experience beyond high school, and they have the exposure to other coaching staffs and other help to be able to improve their game. And I think that's where I can do a lot of my credit towards is the Washington Lady Hawks organization, who has helped me since my freshman year build pitching mechanics and everything. And I don't know where I'd be without having them and having the opportunity to play for that organization. So a lot of girls are able to grow their game outside of high school, and that helps too.
I asked you this, and we obviously ran the story about Coach Knox. What's it like to be, part of his part of his team, and kind of the way he runs things? And he always very quiet in interviews with me until you guys win the state semis, and then he's been like both years now. He's been like, oh yeah, it starts talking. Like I don't know if it's like, okay, we have to get to the finals first or what. But what's it like to have him as coach?
I think Jim Knox is a great coach, and he brings a lot of energy, but also sophistication almost to the team, and he drives us in ways that no other coach can, and motivates us every day at practice and games. So he's a great coach and a great mentor.
Another coach you guys added this year, Lyle Keller. I know I've talked to a couple of the players who have really credited him for another step in aggressive base running, and probably no better benefactor than Aspen Norman, who's can run the base passes better than anybody. You don't get to stay on the bases a whole lot with Kyla, usually courtesy running for you. But what has Lyle meant to the team, and how do you guys use it? How did you guys use aggressive base running to your advantage?
I think a lot of our base running, especially during the postseason, was overly aggressive, and that has helped us because Lyle has been able to come in and fill the third base coach role very well, and he's had experience, I know, with that position. And even though he's not our head coach, he can still fill that role and do a great job in that role. And Aspen's a great base runner, and I'm very thankful to have Kyla to run for me. I'm not the fastest runner on our team, but she has had a shoulder surgery, or not surgery yet, but an injury at least, and she can't throw or anything, so she's been able to run for us, and she's a great runner, so I'm glad to have her.
When you're in the field and you see a team that likes to run the base paths similar to you guys. What does that do mentally as a pitcher, and how much pressure does that put on a defense? I mean, you have 60-foot base paths there. You almost have to. Something I've always been impressed by softball players, like you have to be perfect in fielding a grounder, pretty much. Like third base, grounder to third base, you have to like almost be. You see a baseball player, they can bobble it a little bit, or and still get the runner. But in softball, you have to be near perfect. So when you're aggressive like that, how much pressure does that put on the defense?
That puts a lot of pressure, and we take a lot of ground balls in practices, and they pay off.
Right.
Especially having aggressive middle infielders helps Paige and Aspen. I've been able to be great middle infielders for our team, and they shown in the state game were very aggressive and clean and precise. So it's a great asset to our team too.
I would say your left side of your infield is probably, as far as defense goes, one of the best, in the state at any classification. They have a lot of experience, and it showed in that state title game against Dayton with Aspen's double play there at the end. Jaden had a double play early in the game. What has that meant for you to have such experience as senior and a junior who are so good defensively on that side of the infield?
Having experience is great, and knowing I have a defense behind me helps me in my confidence boost too. So having them is great behind me.
Do you like you hear baseball pitchers talk about it a lot of like I'll pitch to contact. Is that something like you think about in softball, or is it? I mean, it's not like you've ever been short on strikeouts, but is it something you think about, like, hey, I can maybe pitch to contact a little bit against a pitcher, or how does it work in softball?
Yeah, they preach that in softball, and I'm able to think about I'm not always trying to strike everyone out. I mean, it's a great outcome, but I'm trying to hit my spots and spin the ball and get them to swing, because not every umpire is the same and they'll have their different zones. So being able to pitch to contact, and then if they hit the ball and make contact, then I know my defense is set behind me ready to make a play.
Against Dayton, who you guys met in 3 of the last 4 title games, and I think the last 11 games, 9 of those have been decided by 1 run. I tried to ask Jim this, and he didn't really have a good, concrete answer. Why is it always so close with you and Dayton?
I think we're 2 comparable teams, and we almost feed off each other because we play each other so much. We know each other's strengths and weaknesses, and we're able to take advantage of them. So any split second can make the difference in the game. Like Cammy's hit made the whole difference in the game, and it's great to come on top anytime we can. But Dayton's always the biggest competitor in the state with us, and I think they have a good program too.
I wrote a column earlier this week about young players, specifically underclassmen, stepping up frequently, and we should stop being so surprised about it. Like when Riley got the hit, I was like, wow, she's only a sophomore, but why does that matter? What is it? You've had a lot of underclassmen step up this year in big ways, and over the past few years, you've had underclassmen frequently contribute. How do you hold everyone to the same standard and make sure that a freshman coming in is, if they're on the team, they're at the held to the same standard as a senior who's been there for 4 years?
Yeah, I've never been a fan of seniority, so I sometimes even catch myself saying things to Kyla about graduation. I'm like, oh, you're not a senior, you're a sophomore. And it's I feel like everyone's the same age almost, and even if we are different at different ages, we all have a lot of experience, like Paige and Kyla and Riley and all of the lower classmen and Jane Larson. They have a lot of tournament experience, and experience goes a long ways no matter what age you are.
Right.
Obviously you don't have to be a senior to make stellar plays and get outs and hit balls. So
of course, some experience obviously does help, and Cammie Gray's 2-run homer, probably a good example of that. What was it like to see a senior you've worked alongside, for the past several years, come up in such a big moment, and that's her final career high
Yeah,
school at bat was
it's
a
insane.
game-winning homer. What was that like to see her kind of the hard work pay off at the end?
It was great. Cammie's one of my best friends and one of my favorite catchers I've ever pitched to. So being able to see her accomplish everything she's worked so hard for and be a part of that herself, and be alongside her the whole way and um, be with her in the outcome is great. And I'm really proud of her and she was able to get stuff done and stuff we get done for our team.
Right. Uh, Not a sizable senior class this year with just the four of you. What's this senior class meant to you? Being alongside them the past 4 years, I imagine there's a certain bond between classes just because you kind of come in at the same time. What's it? What have the other three girls meant to you, and what are you gonna miss about
I miss everything about them. Those three have been, um, they've been my core friends since early elementary school, and we've been playing volleyball together, basketball together, softball together, and we've had a lot of memories made and bonds created, and they'll last forever.
Cammie obviously going to Lower Columbia College to play. Are Julie and Jaden playing softball at the next level? Yeah, I know LCC is pretty excited to have Cammie aboard. There's lots of locals going to LCC softball the next couple of years, and all across kind of the area, we've had a lot of college signings. So that's cool to see when you're able to kind of see that reward pay off. As far as our other state title winners, you guys were the only team spring title this year for our locals, which last year we had a couple. We had Iwaka golf and Tudor Lake softball. This year, as far as team goes, we had Wakayakum baseball take third. They fell to Colfax in a close semifinal game, and then were able to beat Nantavine in the third place game. And they have a ton of young players. They have they had an 8th grader hit 750 in the postseason. That's Ashton Niemeyer had a great postseason, and they have just most of their class returning. So really interesting to see what Wakayakum baseball can accomplish. And then there's of course Tudor Lake softball, who I think a lot of people would say had the I don't want to say least talented team, but not as many star players as in past years when they had Sam Woodley and some of the star pitchers that come through. You saw Tudor Lake softball play early this season in a non-league game. What do they do so well to compete year in and year out? And this year, they didn't have that a ton of upper echelon first team all solid all leaguers definite all leaguers. They had Britzy and Shelby LeBang, I think, both make the first team. But what do they do so well that kind of challenges teams?
I think they, throughout the years, maintain their competitiveness, and whether they have a great team or new team, they maintain their competitiveness, and what we, that's why we're so close with them too when we play them.
In our all-area, kind of as we were deciding our all-area player of the year, which of course you have been selected. As you know, I did not start the top of the podcast with that, but Haley is our all-area softball player of the year. It was kind of at the last minute between you and Britzy Pocket. What does she do so well? How challenging is that? I think, let's see, she batted like 650 in the regular season, and she hit at state. She was batted like 720 with like 3 homers. But she has so much speed and kind of a unique style of play. What's challenging about facing her?
She's very competitive and a fast runner on the bases and a great hitter and an outfielder. So she's almost a complete package.
Right.
She brings a lot to her team, and she's a great challenge to face.
A Centralia College commit along with Shelby LeBang. So they're both going to go up there, and there's like the Central 2B League has just a ton of people going into the NWACs. and they were, let's see, the Central 2B League had the top three teams with PL, Willapa Valley, Napa Vine, and Tootle Lake. And then the Trico 1A League had the top three, or the District 4, I should say, Southwest District 4 had the top three teams as well with Montesano, La Center, and Hoquiam. So Southwest and Lower Columbia area softball right now, really top of the line. As far as our individual state titles, we had Ilwaco's freshman Blake Kukula win a state title after finishing runner-up last year at the state 2B Golf Championships. Julia Stepper won the 100-meter dash title in Tacoma, and finally kind of got that. In her senior year, she was finally able to get it, which was really cool to see. Kaylin Shipley out of Kalama, our all-area girls track and field athlete of the year, became national champion in the javelin with a throw of 163 feet 6 inches. So that's just crazy. She's thinking 2020 Olympics in Tokyo as kind of her next goal, which is crazy to think about. Getting a University of Arizona scholarship out of small town Kalama is impressive enough, but when you're thinking about the Olympics as an 18-year-old, that's pretty impressive. And then Ilwaco's 4x200 relay team won over in Cheney, and Nacelle's Lily Zimmerman won over in Cheney, and Woodland's Sarah Redder, a little bit of a surprise in the high jump in Tacoma, winning a state title early for us on the first day of the 3-day event. So lots of individual state titles, one team title, lots of success this season. I felt a little bit bad for Castle Rock softball being in that district. You have the 3 state top teams. You go, well, if Castle Rock was there, they'd be fourth, over there. So lots of good softball in the area. Should be exciting to see how teams progress next year. I imagine you guys feel like Rainier's in pretty good hands. I don't think many people expect to drop off, or they shouldn't at this point with with how much success you guys have had. What do you think the teams can accomplish next year? Is another state title?
That's always the goal, and it's kind of been expected of us after these past 4 or 5 years, and each year is a new group of girls and a new start, and you get what you make out of it. So I think they're gonna make good things out of it.
What's the circle going to be like next year? Do you think Talia's obviously she pitched a little bit last year, and then significant more this season. What's the circle going to be like? Is there another pitcher on the horizon that Jim's looking at?
I'm not too sure, not that I know of distinctly, but Talia's going to have a lot of time, and she's ready for it.
And then we will go to our next segment. Trivia time. It was a couple weeks ago, and I don't remember last week's question, so we won't have an answer for you on that. But this week's question is, who did Rainier beat for their first state title in 2013? Who did Rainier softball beat for their first state title in 2013? Answer on YouTube or Facebook or Twitter or wherever you see the question, or watch the video. And then whoever's the first to get it right will get a shout out on next week's podcast. That's pretty much it for us. I want to thank Haley for coming out and joining us a couple days from graduation. So I appreciate her coming out. Thanks again to Sterling Auto Group for sponsoring this week's podcast. I'm Joshua Hart, and we'll see you next week.